My name is Alex, and I used to believe family meant equal love and support. I learned the hard way how naive that belief was. Growing up, the differences in how my mom treated my sister Jen and me were subtle at first. Jen got the slightly nicer birthday presents. Jen's achievements were celebrated with more enthusiasm. Jen's mistakes were forgiven more quickly. I noticed, but I convinced myself it wasn't intentional. Maybe Jen just needed more support, or maybe I was imagining things. I tried harder, achieved more, asked for less. By the time I reached college, I was used to it. I had won a partial scholarship to a good university, something my parents seemed proud of, though not as proud as when Jen had simply been accepted to the same school years earlier. I worked 2 jobs while taking a full course load, determined to graduate with minimal debt. I rarely asked my parents for anything. Meanwhile, Jen called home weekly for extra money, car repairs, unexpected bills, vacations with friends. Mom always said yes. I never complained. I just kept working, kept studying, kept believing that one day all this independence and responsibility would pay off. Then came my final semester of college. My scholarship had run out. They only covered 8 semesters, and I needed 1 more to graduate. Between tuition, books, and living expenses, I needed $8,000. I had saved almost half, but I was still short. My part-time jobs barely covered my rent, and I couldn't take on more hours without dropping classes. For the first time in years, I called my mom to ask for help. "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I need to ask you something. Important." "What is it, honey?" She sounded distracted, like she was doing something else while on the phone. "I'm short on tuition for my last semester. I've been working doubles and cutting expenses everywhere I can, but I'm still about $4,500 short. I was wondering if you could loan me the money. I'll pay you back as soon as I graduate and find a job." The silence that followed felt like an eternity. "Alex," she finally said, her voice suddenly formal, "your father and I aren't a bank. We've always taught you to be responsible with money. Taking out loans is a slippery slope." My heart sank. "I know, Mom. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't my last semester. I just need a little help to cross the finish line." "Have you looked into student loans?" "That's what they're for," she replied, her tone suggesting this conversation was already over. "The interest rates are high, and it takes weeks to process. I could miss the payment deadline and have to postpone graduation." My voice cracked slightly, betraying the desperation I was trying to hide. "I'm sorry, Alex, we just don't have extra money lying around for something like this. You should have planned better." I sat there, phone pressed against my ear, trying to process her words. No extra money lying around? The same parents who had just taken a Mediterranean cruise? The same mother who regularly mentioned her healthy retirement accounts? "Okay," I finally managed. "I understand. I'll figure something out." "I know you will, honey. You've always been the responsible one." We hung up, and I sat in my apartment, staring at the wall. The responsible one. As if my responsibility was a convenient excuse for them to withhold support. I eventually pieced together the money I needed. I sold my car, took extra shifts that left me exhausted during classes, and borrowed from a friend who had a small inheritance. I graduated, but the achievement felt hollow. 3 weeks after graduation, I was having Sunday dinner at my parents' house, something I still did despite the growing resentment I felt, when Jen made a big announcement. "So," she said, beaming, "I found the perfect house. It's just what Mark and I have been looking for, and it's in our price range." My parents erupted in excited questions. Where was it? How many bedrooms? When could they see it? "The only hurdle," Jen continued, "is the down payment. We're a little short." I watched as my mother's expression shifted from excitement to determination. "How much do you need, honey?" "About $20,000, Jen replied, looking hopeful. "We've saved almost $15,000 ourselves." Without hesitation, my mother said, "We can help with that, can't we, Richard?" My father nodded in agreement. "Really?" Jen squealed. "That would be amazing." "Of course," my mother said warmly. "That's what family is for. We want you and Mark to have a good start." I sat there, fork suspended halfway to my mouth, feeling like I'd been slapped. $20,000 given freely, not even as a loan, while my $4,500 request had been denied just months earlier? Alex, my mother's voice broke through my thoughts, isn't that wonderful news? I looked at her smiling face, then at Jen's excitement, then at my father's proud expression. They had no idea what they'd just revealed to me. Or worse, they knew exactly what they were showing me, and they didn't care. Wonderful, I echoed hollowly. Congratulations, Jen. I excused myself early that night, claiming I wasn't feeling well. In truth, I couldn't bear to sit there any longer, pretending that what had just happened was normal or fair. The drive home was a blur. My mind kept replaying my mother's words from months ago. We aren't a bank. You should have planned better. And now, that's what family is for. Family was for Jen, apparently, not for me. I made a decision that night. I would build my life without their help. I would succeed on my own terms, and I would never, ever forget what they had shown me about where I stood in the family hierarchy. The years passed. I found a good job, then a better one. I moved to a different city, partly for career opportunities and partly to create some distance from my family. I still called on birthdays and holidays. I still visited occasionally. But something had changed fundamentally in how I viewed my family and how I protected myself from them. Jen and Mark moved into their house, had 2 children, and settled into comfortable suburban life. My parents doted on their grandchildren and continued to help whenever Jen needed anything. A new car, private school tuition for the kids, lavish family vacations. I built my own success. I worked hard, invested wisely, and eventually started my own business. I dated, though nothing serious materialized, perhaps because of the walls I'd built after learning such a painful lesson about trust from my own family. 7 years after that Sunday dinner revelation, I received an unexpected call from my mother. It was late, almost 10 p.m., and her name flashing on my phone screen made me hesitate before answering. Alex? Her voice sounded strange, tight and wavering. Hi, Mom, is everything okay? No, honey, everything is not okay. I heard her take a shaky breath. Your father and I are in trouble, serious trouble. I sat down, a familiar tension creeping up my spine. What kind of trouble? Financial trouble. The words seemed to pain her. Your father's business has been struggling for years, but we thought we could turn it around. We've been using our retirement savings to keep it afloat, and now, her voice cracked, now the money's gone. All of it. I said nothing, waiting for her to continue. The house has 2 mortgages on it. We're behind on payments. The bank is threatening foreclosure. She was crying now, soft sobs punctuating her words. We've helped Jen as much as we can over the years, but she and Mark are stretched thin with the kids and their own mortgage. Still, I waited, knowing what was coming. Alex, honey, I know this is a lot to ask, but you've done so well for yourself. Your business is thriving. We need help. We need about $30,000 to catch up on the mortgages and have a little cushion until your father can sell the business. The irony was so perfect, it almost felt scripted. Here was my mother, who had denied me a $4,500 loan when I desperately needed it, asking me for more than 6 times that amount. Let me understand, I said slowly, my voice calmer than I felt. You need me to give you $30,000. Or loan it to us, she rushed to add. Though I don't know when we could pay it back. Things are really tight right now. I closed my eyes, memories flooding back. The struggle of my final semester, selling my car, working until I was exhausted, the hollow feeling at graduation, and then, just weeks later, the casual gift of $20,000 to my sister. Mom, I said, my voice quiet but firm. I'm not a bank. Silence, complete silence on the other end of the line. What? She finally whispered. That's what you told me when I needed help to finish college, remember? You said you weren't a bank. You told me I should have planned better. That was different, she protested weakly. Yes, it was, I agreed. I needed $4,500 to finish my education. an investment in my future. You need $30,000 because you've mismanaged your money and prioritized Jen over having a secure retirement. Alex, please. Did you ever stop to think about how it felt when you refused to help me but handed Jen $20,000 just weeks later? Did you ever consider what message that sent? Her crying grew louder. We never meant to hurt you. We just thought you were more independent, more capable. And that became your excuse to give Jen everything and me nothing. I finished for her. You punished me for being responsible. Please, she begged. We have nowhere else to turn. I let out a long breath, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. I'll think about it, Mom. That's all I can say right now. I hung up without waiting for her response. Then I sat in my living room, looking around at the life I'd built entirely on my own. The satisfaction of knowing I owed them nothing was profound. The next day, I called a financial advisor friend and explained the situation. Upon my request, he called my parents and reviewed their finances, with my permission, of course. His assessment was grim. My father's business was beyond saving. Their house was underwater, their retirement accounts were empty, their credit cards were maxed out. A week later, I flew home. I rented a car at the airport and drove to my parents' house. The same house where I'd learned exactly where I stood in the family years ago. They looked older than I remembered, worn down by stress and fear. My father, once proud and confident, couldn't meet my eyes. My mother had been crying. Her face was puffy and her eyes were red. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Jen had announced her house purchase and received $20,000 without even having to ask for it. I've reviewed your situation, I said, my voice businesslike, and I've made a decision. They leaned forward, hope flickering in their eyes. I'm not giving you $30,000. My mother's face crumpled, my father's shoulders slumped. Instead, I continued, I'm offering you a structured solution. I laid out my terms. I would pay off one of their mortgages, not both, which would amount to about $85,000. In exchange, they would sign a legal agreement acknowledging this as a loan with specific repayment terms. They would sell the house within 6 months and downsize to something they could afford. My father would close his failing business immediately, and they would attend financial counseling, which I would pay for. This isn't charity, I said clearly. This is me preventing my parents from becoming homeless while ensuring you learn from this situation. But what about forgiveness, my mother asked, tears streaming down her face. What about family helping family? I looked her directly in the eyes, like when you helped me with my tuition? She flinched. This is me helping you, I said firmly, but it's help with accountability. It's the kind of help that ensures you won't need to ask again because you'll have the tools and knowledge to manage your money properly. And if we don't accept your terms? My father asked, speaking for the first time. I shrugged. Then you're on your own. Bankruptcy, foreclosure, whatever comes next. They signed the agreement that afternoon. Over the next 6 months, I watched as they sold their house, moved into a modest condo, and began to rebuild their financial life under the guidance of the counselor I'd hired. My father found a job working for someone else, a blow to his pride, but steady income they desperately needed. Jen was furious when she learned about my cruel terms. How could you treat them like that? She demanded over the phone. They're your parents. Yes, I replied calmly. The same parents who gave you $20,000 for a house down payment but wouldn't loan me $4,500 to finish college. The same parents who are now facing the consequences of years of financial mismanagement and favoritism. That's not... Did you offer to help them? I interrupted. Did you offer to give back any of the money they've given you over the years? Her silence was answer enough. I didn't derive joy from my parents' struggle, but I won't deny feeling a certain vindication. The playing field had finally been leveled. For the first time in my life, they had to acknowledge their treatment of me and face the reality that their golden child couldn't, or wouldn't, save them. It's been 2 years since then. My parents are doing better now. They live within their means. They've even started rebuilding a modest retirement fund. Our relationship has changed. It's more honest, though perhaps less warm. They know I'll be there if they truly need me, but they also know I won't be taken advantage of again. As for Jen, she and I maintain a civil relationship for family gatherings, but the closeness we once had is gone. She still doesn't understand why I couldn't just let it go and help our parents without conditions. But I understand something now that took me years to learn. Respect isn't freely given in this family. It's earned. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is stand your ground, especially when it would be easier to give in. My mother called me last week. "I want to thank you," she said, her voice sincere. "What you did, it wasn't what we wanted, but it was what we needed." "I know," I replied. "I'm sorry we didn't help you when you needed it," she added quietly. "I wish we could go back and change that." "I don't," I told her honestly. "If you had helped me then, I might never have learned to stand on my own. And you might never have learned the lesson you needed to learn." Sometimes, the most valuable lessons are the ones that hurt the most to learn. And sometimes, saying no is the most powerful form of self-respect. So let me ask you, have you ever had to stand your ground with family, even when it was painful, or have you been the one who always gives in? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.